uploading videos from the other day at the same time, sorry. I didn't realize that part of the rules from Twitch is you're supposed to not upload for a day afterwards, so now I've been waiting to do that, and I am in the process of doing that on the ones from the other day. Alright, so we have the farm. Let's see, I need more shovels, and I need sticks. That's what I need. I need sticks. So I need to get... That's way more than I need. I should just leave one small, like, incomplete stack up here and drop them as I need them. I'm hoping that it's not picking up in the background, but I am listening to Simon Miller do the ups and downs from SmackDown right now, and I'm probably just going to let it autoplay, which means it'll probably be What Culture videos. But it could be anything. It could be like WrestleMania or something like that. There's a lot of people I listen to in the wrestling-themed topics. How far is this? I'll keep letting that do what it does. Means I need to get shovels and pickaxes instead. Alright, it seems like it's just barely picking it up. I hope that it doesn't get, like, a claim, because it's not intended. I'm just trying to have background noise. Oh well. I think that it's so minimal that you won't even be able to discern what's being said, so I don't think it should fall under claim risk. Yeah, it seems like it's just barely picking up, like, the peaks of the volume. I have it turned down more than I traditionally have it, though, so I don't know why it's... because I've done this before. I've had background audio over in the other part of the room, but usually it doesn't pick it up. I don't know if Simon's just louder than 25% volume or what. He might just be extra, as I've heard, and I still don't know what that means. This week in WWE has been apparently very satisfying and interesting, although I only saw the stuff after the fact. But, I'm hoping they really do something with Nikki soon. Ouch. Because I do like Nikki Cross, so I'm happy to see her being demonstrated as, like, a talent in and of her own instead of just being that person who follows around Alexa Bliss. I think she's a really, really likable person, like, as a person. and she has a very, very impressive performance when she's performing her gimmick, and so I really, really would like to see her have a lot of success because she does a great job. Oh, my shovel's about to dead. And I will say, terraforming is such a slow process. So I guess I should say stuff to try and fill up this time. So the current pay-per-view that's going to be coming up is Extreme Rules, and the big focal point for this is the fact that the two biggest stars right now in WWE are actually a couple. Those being not Tyler Black. I've never actually seen him perform as Tyler Black, so it's funny that that name comes to mind quicker. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are, as far as I can tell, legitimately a couple. I don't think it's a kayfabe thing. I mean, it absolutely could be. There's a possibility that it could be. But, so they're majorly the focal point right now, and they have they're headlining versus Baron Corbin, who I think is underrated because of how people talk about him. They say he can't wrestle and stuff, and I think he's a pretty talented guy. I think that they just have forced him down people's throats enough that people just don't like him. And he is apparently not the nicest guy. In real life, he's apparently a bit of a d-bag. But that said, he is a good performer as far as I can see. He's very quick for his size, and he has what is probably one of my favorite signature moves. While he's mostly known for the End of Days, I think that his Deep Six just, even though it's a little bit more flourish than actual Impact, looks like a really dangerous move when you're watching it. He seems like a pretty capable performer, and so I think that a little bit of the flack that he gets is just from overexposure more than anything. I think he's a decently talented performer. A lot of people said it was great that he finally cut all his hair off, but there's something about the fact that when he was a heel, he had this short, greasy, this long but sparsely, populated, greasy hair. I felt like it worked really well for him since he was playing this kind of greasy, gross heel. I think he did a good. I think it worked for him. I don't think that it was necessary for him to remove it. It was kind of when Dean Ambrose cut his hair short. He lost so they didn't ever make him a heel in the actual legitimate sense without it just feeling really awkward when they finally did try to make him heel. But when they did make him heel, they did a really bad job. The first time he was a heel with the Shield, I think he did a spectacular job of just looking like this slimy, gross, arrogant, sweaty jerk, basically. And then when he got his hair cut short, it did kind of affect the look in a way that he just didn't come across quite as, I don't know, there was more of an I don't care what you think to it when he had the short, or when he had the kind of longer, greasy hair. He looks good with the short hair. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life right now, I think is another big part of it. But he, it's a different personality when he was the kind of counter-authority figure. The greasy hair worked really well, in my opinion, and So when he got his hair cut short, I mean, I guess it's good that they didn't go for the same thing because that, I think, added to the character in a bit of a way. And I might be the only person in the world who thinks that, but that's my thoughts. There are a couple of other parts. Let's see what else is happening with Extreme Rules. Oh, Aleister Black is going to be against Cesaro, which I think will be a very good match. I really hope they let Aleister win. As much as I like Cesaro, Cesaro is more safely established than Aleister Black right now on the main card. And so I'm hoping that they let Aleister win. So to people who... I've never really talked about this. So wrestling is an interesting beast. People who have never really found wrestling interesting and stuff will hear this and it will all sound so strange. Yes, wrestling is predetermined. It is a complicated and nuanced thing in a way. Wrestling is not fake because those injuries can indeed be very, very real. If you really, really, really want to see a bad one, Sid Vicious at one point during his career legitimately like snapped his ankle in half, and it looked absolutely horrible. The injuries are absolutely real things. But that said, the outcomes of the matches are predetermined. So it's slightly a misnomer to say that wrestling is fake. It's not fake, it is scripted. Now there is... Oh god. I couldn't see well enough to see if that was down there, and I was just trying to inch over and see if I could peek, and I fell in. I'm glad that there was not a hole there. But yeah, so it's predetermined. So when people will like tell fans of wrestling, you do know it's all fake. It is, but it isn't. The outcomes are predetermined, and you are, as a fan, kind of instructed who you are supposed to like and not like. And people defy that all the time. There are plenty of heels who have a lot of legitimate I like you kind of fans. But, so when people say that, though, that wrestling is predetermined and stuff like that, and why do you watch it? It is like watching any other TV show that is heavily dramatic. But you'll also hear people who watch all the time often called smarks because of their... So a mark is a fan of wrestling who likes wrestling as it is, for what it is, and they just enjoy the product. Smarks are the, like, smart Alex who discuss the outcomes and analyze it as a scripted event, and usually they're a little bit of, like, D-bags. That's not always the case. There's plenty of perfectly fine fans of wrestling out there who are wise to what it is and how it works and its scripting and all that. God, I'm rambling. None of this is coherent. I do have a point. It's just not coherent how I'm saying it. But, so when you tell people, you know, it's all predetermined and it's all fake, whatever, they are well aware that it is scripted, that there are decided winners and decided losers, and that's all determined ahead of time. Oh, that bastard. That bastard. He has the high ground, which is inconvenient. Now he's far enough away that he shouldn't mess with me while I'm over here. And he might despawn by the time I get over there. But, so I would probably fall under a smart to some extent, except that I still tend to try and like the product for what it is. It's been really difficult lately because WWE has made some trash decisions. But what I can say is I still greatly respect the performers doing it, even if the writers have really dropped the ball. And by the writers, the more and more I learn, the writers actually means Vince McMahon, because he will basically prevent writers from writing a good script by having his own ideas of how it's going to work and telling them to just completely rewrite it until they've just kind of given up on trying, which is depressing. But yeah, so oh, I need more than that. I'm gonna need like that many. This many. So what ends up happening though is really, really good performers will end up kind of screwed by Vince McMahon's absolutely insane writing and stuff. Hey! Unnecessary. Absolutely rude. I saw that. Unacceptable. But yeah, so they'll have an idea that'll work and it sounds like it would be a great idea and stuff, and they'll take it all the way up the food chain to Vince, and Vince will be like, I don't like it at all. And he'll decide what the fans do and don't like, even when the fans do like what he's saying they won't like. You bastard. Why don't you ever just try to make friends instead of being a jerk? Alright, so, it's worked for other skeletons, I promise you. But yeah, so what I'm trying to get at in this ramble as I'm getting shot at and trying to formulate my words and play a video game at the same time, which is not as easy as I ever thought it would be as an aspiring performer. The fans, like the long-term older fans, will enjoy it as kind of a way to basically have like a fantasy sport team, in a sense, I guess, is the closest analogy I can make. Because there actually is a thing called fantasy booking, where people will try and write their own script and see if other people would like how that works. But usually you'll have your smarks, as they are, discussing the product from the consciousness that it is scripted. And so you'll hear like people say like, oh, he's a really good performer, he deserves to win. And they don't mean it in like the every time he gets up to the plate something bad happens, or it's just a bad, you know, he gets bad pitches, or since they know he's a good player, they'll walk him so he can't show off his talent, whatever. I mean, that seems like really, because usually by the time you're a talent established in baseball, you would already have shown your talent that you can knock it out of the park. But, so where this ties into what that was that I was saying at the beginning of this absolutely convoluted conversation, is that when people tell them, you know, it's all fake, or, you know, it's all scripted, or whatever they want to, you know, parade rain, I guess, would be the best way to explain it. That's basically what it is. Yes, most of the older fans are 150% aware of the fact that it is scripted and predetermined and all of that. But not only are they aware of it, they talk in full conscious awareness. They don't watching wrestling is a complicated thing when you're an adult because you're viewing it as if it's serious in enough that you are suspending your disbelief in the moment. You're watching it, and what happens may be a legitimate surprise. You don't know, because while it is predetermined, the fans don't necessarily know what will happen. There's all the time things where there's, especially when there's what is called a swerve, where something is deliberately scripted in a way that's supposed to throw you off. It's done, like when James Ellsworth won a match, for example, because he was what was called enhancement talent, which are people who are designed to lose. They're usually what is a squash match, where people are just beaten really quickly by these super big, monstrous, hulking, big performers like Braun Strowman. Um, Iron. I'll take iron. But, so even though it's predetermined, that doesn't mean that the viewers know what the outcome is going to be, first off. And the second part of that is that it's still just like any other fiction. It's any other fictitious story. And the performers, the athletes, are still absolutely athletes. If you watch Mustafa Ali or Kofi Kingston do one of their, more athletic moves, or, someone just shoot at me? No. Or AJ Styles, or something like that. Or even if you see, like, when Braun Strowman can just manhandle someone because of the fact that he's so outrageously strong. So before Braun Strowman was a wrestler, he was a bodybuilder. And so he has this outrageous physique. He is not actually like the pound for pound strongest or just the outright strongest, but he's a good example because he really is outrageously strong. The pound for pound strongest in the WWE actually is Cesaro, who is much more lightweight, but is just outrageously, freakishly muscular. Like, freakishly strong. And, very charismatic, which is good too, because it works really well as a complete package for being a wrestling performer. But when you see performers do the things they do, it's undeniable that it is absolutely an athletic performance. The idea that it is fake, as I said, is more of a misunderstanding because what is happening is very real. The outcomes are what is predetermined. And I'm sure that 100 billion people who've seen this, and by that I mean all 2 viewers that have seen this, probably. But, like, if a random person in 40 years were to stumble upon this, they would already know everything I'm saying. But I'm trying to keep stream of consciousness up so that it's actually an interesting video, first off. And second off, it was just a thing that was on my mind, is wrestling. So when I'm discussing things and I say, how the outcomes I expect to be or what I hope to be the outcome, it's from a place of being consciously aware of the fact that it is scripted, but absolutely, certainly insisting that it's not fake, because fake is, to me, implies more that the performance in and of itself isn't real, more like a general stage play. Which, that's not to say that stage plays aren't a talented performance in and of themselves, it's just that there's differences. It is not fake in the same sense as that, because, like, those people really are jumping up and breaking their limbs and stuff like that. It's actually funny that I say those people are, like, wrestling, those people are jumping up and doing it when, I'm going to see Rent later this year, and the Rent Fox taping that they did for Rent, where they did this, which they had the coolest stage. If you haven't seen the Return to Broadway or whatever, they had a special performance of Rent that they did recently, and when they did it, they had this special stage, and it was like the coolest stage I've absolutely ever seen. But when they did the live performance, the guy who played Roger wasn't able to do some of the scenes for the recording in the actual final taping because, well, they actually just had to position him on a, or from a seated position instead of standing because at some point he had broken his leg. So, Broadway performers can break their legs too, it's not what I'm saying. It's just that the athletic performance is real. There's no like smoke and mirrors as far as their agility and their strength. Those are really strong and agile people involved in those scenarios. It's just that the outcomes are the part that is fake insofar as the term fake meaning that it is not an actual demonstration of who is better so much as it is a demonstration of who management believes should succeed. But the reason I say that is because if I'm talking about something like, in this case, Extreme Rules, I'm aware of the meta of the situation. It's not news to me that the thing is scripted or that the outcomes are predetermined. Did that just finish right there in front of my face? I think it did. I should probably start from the other side since that's the side with the big giant tree. But, so there are lingo, like, the terms that the fans use are actually, I believe, all terms that were originally used by performers to define certain things, like where you have like smarks, which a mark was originally a person. A person marking out would be a person who was like absolutely be like, oh my god, you're the Undertaker, you're the coolest man I've ever seen. He's like the dead man. You know, like absolutely freaking out and acting like, you know, just the biggest fan of wrestling in the world or whatever. Did I make two axes? I'm dumb. Why is this all weird lighting? Makes it hard to see. But, so, and then the term smart came from people who are, you know, marks, but they're smart, and so it got shortened to smart mark. And from smart mark to smark, and then that's where the term comes from. But they are the, like I said, usually more smart-ass kind of people that are, like, get back up there. They are people who would be, like, talking about it as a production. Don't waste this. Sorry for this sudden pause. I'm trying to process because I need to see where I need to go. Alright, but so they'll ruin what little kayfabe that is still alive in wrestling. Sorry, as I was saying, by talking about it all as a production to people in public, which is kind of considered in bad taste. Even the like more generally aware, consciously aware smarks that are out there. There's kind of a couple different camps. There's the people who talk about it as a production and the people who find that to be very rude and disrespectful to the performance. It's still basically someone, who was it I was watching, who basically defined it as the most popular form of stage performance that's still common in the world, or at least in the West today, is wrestling, because it does technically fall under what would be considered a traditional stage performance. Who was it I was watching who said that? It was a really good video. I linked it at one point in my Discord. I think that's all is that all the big tall trees? Did I get them all? Oh, no, don't chop it down with a shovel. That's dumb. Don't chop down the tree with a shovel. Alright, so... But yeah, so the people I was talking about watching, such as WrestleMania or What Culture or Cultaholic, who they would probably both shudder to hear me say their names in each other's graces so close to each other, because of the fact that there's kind of some bad blood between the two groups now. After some... I don't exactly know what happened, but I do know that the people from Cultaholic left What Culture and do not like What Culture. A lot of them apparently are still friends with their former coworkers. Like, a lot of them really like Simon Miller, who's the one I was talking about earlier. But in general, I guess it's the management level or something, they do not like each other. And so they'd probably not be too happy that I said their names right next to each other, but because of the fact that I watched when they were still all one group, I'm familiar with them as all being part of the same group, so one's name reminds me of the other. Or WrestleMania, or Wrestling with Regret with Brian Zane. They're all smarks, I would say. Some of them definitely more than others, although they all discuss it as being what is called a work, which is when something is staged and scripted, as opposed to a shoot where something is absolutely unscripted and oftentimes makes management mad. It doesn't have to, and I don't even know if it's the majority of the time, but I do know that if someone shoots on another performer or shoots on management or something like that, especially without getting the permission to say something off script first, it can be a big deal. But yeah, so they discuss wrestling in the meta, discussing it as the performance that it is, and how they think it should be, or what rumors they've heard from others in the industry or other news sources or whatever. And there's a lot of that. There are a lot of YouTube channels relating to that. Some I like, some I don't like, some I like but don't watch frequently. Like, I don't watch, oh, who is it? They say, "Hey there, friendo," at the beginning of the videos, and I can't think of their names. And I like them, but I don't get their recommendations as often in my list, and so I don't think to watch them as often. What are their names? I don't know, but so there's them, and then there's like Wrestle Talk. There's a lot of channels about wrestling, and it's because at the end of the day, even though yes it is scripted, yes it is predetermined, all that kind of stuff, it's an entertaining thing, and even though it comes from way back in the like carny culture kind of days, as far as its performance, its production, its origin. which is funny because the only Carney-based gimmick that they've ever had wasn't all that successful, even though the guy who did it did a great job. It just wasn't a very successful gimmick, and I'm guessing that came down to booking. But yeah, so even though it's as old as like the 20s Carney culture and stuff like that, it's still a lot of success today because people still are invested in these characters and these people. It's kind of a blurred line between fiction and non-fiction. It, as I said, is scripted and predetermined and things like that, although they do have to make things up on the fly sometimes, like when Mustafa Ali was supposed to have a championship, like kind of a brush with the championship at one point, and he got hurt and had to give up his space for, what did I get? Oh, Oxide Daisy. He had to give up his spot in the title picture temporarily because of the fact that he got hurt. And Kofi Kingston took his spot, and Kofi did such a great job that the fans got really behind Kofi. And so, like, right now he's the champion because basically the fans are like, look, he's so good and he did such a great job and such a believable job, we want to give him a title shot. And the fans basically pitched enough of a fit that management was like, let's give them what they want, I guess. And so they gave Kofi a title shot, and he won at WrestleMania. And it was a good match. It was a feel great moment. It really was very awesome. But that whole thing basically happened because Mustafa Ali got hurt. And that really sucked for Ali because Ali does deserve a championship. He's really, really awesome. He seems like an amazing guy in person, from what I understand. He seems like a very, very nice guy. He has lots of people experience in the past because he is former police officer, so he's dealt with probably a lot of people who watch wrestling, to be completely honest. That's not to say that all people who watch wrestling are criminals or anything like that. That's just to say that there are probably a lot of people who are wrestling fans who he has or had interacted with in that role. I'm gonna just leave the torches there and let it grow kind of funky. But, so he's very charismatic and very, very likable, so he will definitely get a title shot at some point. But I'm really glad Kofi was able to get one because he showed during that time he absolutely qualified as a main event performer, but he'd been portrayed as what is the mid card, or maybe no, not undercard because they held the titles too often, but kind of a mid card act because he was always part of the tag team picture because he was part of a group called the New Day, who are a tag stable of Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E Langston, who I guess he just goes by Big E now, but and they have, it's interesting that they've always been part of the mid card because they are apparently the best selling, like best merch moving, like performers in the entire currently active roster. The only people who sell more are Steve Austin and John Cena, I think. And maybe not even John Cena anymore, but he'd always been part of the mid-card as a result because that particular group was often recognized more as part of the tag. Okay, let's get up to their level first. It's not going to do me any good to try and fight them from down there. I really don't like these bastards being here all the time. This is really annoying. Are there locations that are more likely to have this happen? Sorry about being quiet, but this is not ideal. Especially with it being out here in the middle of the damn water. Let's make a bunch of bread real quick. Okay, yeah, I really don't like dealing with the raiders. That's super annoying. That they'll just like show up any time of day while you're trying to do stuff and waste all your daylight. And it's not particularly fun. I'm glad that they fixed a little bit of the hunger, which was my biggest turnoff to this game for a long time. But I really, really, really don't like the fact that the raiders can just show up and make everything super obnoxious. I just want to, terraform, and I have to keep going and getting my sword and armor and fighting people. I don't like this bad omen, whatever. Is that gonna mean that there's gonna be more raiders showing up soon? 'Cause if so, that's even more obnoxious. Alright. So... must have screwed up the soil. Which spot did I mess up? Yep. Since I'm never going to need this. Oh yeah, it has to be grass first. I forgot. So... Alright. Alright, so... There. Now there shouldn't be as much being picked up in the background. Oh, I do want this dirt though still. I probably don't need anywhere near that much dirt. Alright, so... This is still too loud. It keeps getting picked up by the microphone. It's really annoying. Like, I love having this microphone, but it picks up the speaker so easily. Anyways. so I don't have to actually worry about that, turns out. It turns out that's only a 5-minute village. Which I am not. So the bad omen thing will go away. Are you kidding me? Alright, let me go get more food. Yeah, it's not fun. The Raiders mechanic is not fun. I don't enjoy it. I don't find it entertaining. It mostly wastes your time while you're trying to do other things. Oops, what am I doing? I'll just wait for it to go there and then transfer it out to the other one. Maybe it'll just despawn while I'm doing this. And this, and they go away, or are they over in the water somewhere? I think they went away. Do I have any sticks again? Oh, there they are. Why did I grab more stone? And 20-minute days are so much shorter than 24-hour days. I need to add like some mods to the server. So many seeds. So let's use up some of my endless supplies here to keep the urine bowls from burning. This is a nice little water place.
I don't need to do the whole thing because monsters can't spawn in a 1 square tall location. But this should minimize the amount of zombie grumbles inside the floor.
So alright, so alright, so I forgot what I was doing for a minute. It's good. Okay, Brian, no need to yell. I mean, yes, it is silly that a SmackDown star has spent more time on Raw than SmackDown, but there's not much that can be done about that. Huh? When did I get that? Oops, that didn't go there. There we go. Alright, so I cannot put away the... Or I cannot make another bed for Cujo at the moment. I guess I'll go mining for a while.
I've got all the torches. This is a terrible mining expedition. Let's see here. What do I need?
Where did my block go? Did it just eat my glass? Oh, there's my glass. It came back. It's over here. Sounds like things aren't doing so well over there. Ow, ow. Alright. I got poked by a pokey again.
I need to figure out what I'm going to make this out of. The end. It's true. So 13, 14, 15. Now, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. What?
Alright. Alright, hello there. Thank you for follow. Alright. Okay, if you can make him back into... No, you cannot. I can't remember if you could. So those will just be them. There we go. So that side is set. Hello there, Brian. Four, 6, 7, 8,
Nice. Lighting sometimes is kind of hard to see. These.
Mine. my torches back. I mean, I'm pretty much just paying attention to the chat as much as I can and building. So far today it hasn't been particularly active. Sometimes I have some other viewers, but I think they're busy at the moment. Some of them are probably in bed based on what time it is. Oh, if you know what I mean. $37. We're on to the last 64, it looks like. Wait. No, it's up there. There's still a lot left. That works better playing. glass, I would imagine. And I need stone. Oh, Simon's gonna be busy this week. I have like 4 ups and downs episodes.